In the heart of Qing City's neon-drenched underground black market, a hooded young man moved through the crowded alleys, his eyes cautiously scanning the shadows before stepping into a dimly lit shop. Inside, he approached the owner with a chilling proposal. He wanted to sell a kidney and a cornea, totaling 27,500 yuan. The owner, pen in hand, hesitated as he marked the items. "Are you serious?" he asked, frowning. "In the past 6 months, you've already sold a kidney, your spleen, gallbladder, part of your liver, a third of it again, and chunks of your intestines. If you sell another kidney, you'll die in less than 2 days." Lying on a blood-stained stretcher, the young man, Ye Lin, remained calm. His voice was steady as he muttered, "It's fine. To save my sister, any sacrifice is worth it." The shopkeeper sighed and gave up trying to talk him out of it. Without a second thought, he raised a butcher's knife high above his head. A sickening scream echoed through the shop moments later. Not long after, the so-called dead man walked out, bandages covering his eyes and a wooden stick in hand. Once he was sure no one was tailing him, he unwrapped the bandage and used his regeneration ability to heal his wounds. Pulling out a wad of cash, the payment for his kidney and cornea, he smirked. Between this and his savings, he now had enough to afford the job transfer ritual. He couldn't help but laugh. The whole dying sister story? A complete lie. He was amazed anyone believed it. His name was Ye Lin, a transmigrator and textbook orphan. In truth, he had no sister to save. This world he had landed in was bursting with spiritual energy and swarming with beasts, demons, and dungeon realms. Life here was brutal, especially for orphans like him. That was until he discovered his unique talent, rapid body regeneration. No matter the injury, even lost organs would grow back within minutes. And so, he'd spent the last several months butchering his own body to raise 100,000 yuan for one reason: the class transfer ritual. Only by undergoing the ritual and awakening a powerful profession could he hope to survive this savage world. Today was the day. When he arrived at the class transfer site, a group of 3 students noticed him. One of them stepped forward and asked why he was there. Everyone knew Ye Lin as a poor student. They couldn't imagine how he could afford the ritual. Without missing a beat, Ye Lin took the hand of the girl in the group, Miss Wang, and spoke with feigned emotion. "Miss Wang, I had no choice. I took out a class transfer loan. Naturally, it was a lie, but he needed to keep up appearances." Miss Wang was shocked, and the 2 male students with her looked uneasy. They pitied Ye Lin, fearing he'd spend the rest of his life repaying the loan if he ended up with a useless class. Still, Miss Wang allowed him to enter, wishing him luck before the ritual began. Inside, the principal began calling students up one by one. First was Gao Dayu from Class 5. Murmurs spread. He wasn't from a wealthy family either. When he placed his hand on the golden orb, the principal declared his profession: an A-rank poultry breeder, a support class. The students laughed, but the principal reassured Gao Dayu that no class was useless, only people could be. Then came a stunning girl in a tight red dress and leather boots, Zuganini. She captivated everyone as she stepped up confidently. As she placed her hand on the orb, a phoenix erupted into the air. The principal announced her class with astonishment: an SSS-ranked fire mage. The students were in awe, and even Ye Lin couldn't help but admire her. An SSS fire mage was a force capable of wiping out entire armies. After her class transfer, Zuganini was informed that special training would be arranged for her, and she stepped down proudly. Ye Lin's name was called next. As he walked to the stage, he heard whispers about his so-called loan. He glanced briefly at Zuganini. He wasn't going to live in anyone's shadow. He placed his hands on the golden orb, heart pounding. Then, a massive azure dragon emerged. A blue light engulfed his body as the crowd gasped. Even Zuganini looked impressed. The principal announced Ye Lin's class: an SSS-ranked Forbidden Cursemaster. At first, the principal celebrated, but then his smile froze. Forbidden Cursemaster? His expression darkened. The crowd erupted into laughter. The truth of Ye Lin's class settled in. Anyone with that profession rarely lived past 25. Every skill used consumed life force, leading to early death. Zuganini sighed in disappointment and walked away. Ye Lin, ever the performer, feigned sorrow. So convincing was his act that the principal patted him on the back with sympathy. "Don't be too negative," the principal told him. "Better to burn brightly than fade meaninglessly." Ye Lin smiled and replied with a fiery resolve, "Then I'll burn like the sun." The principal promised special training for him alongside Zuganini. Ye Lin accepted, inwardly amused. After all, the risk of death didn't apply to him. He was practically immortal. As the ceremony ended, students returned home. Ye Lin headed back too, exhausted and eager for rest. But along the way, a voice called out. It was Zuganini. She offered to team up, explaining that fighting alone would hasten his death. Her concern sounded sincere. However, Ye Lin refused to accept the offer. Zuganini didn't force him at all. She simply walked away, stating that Ye Lin was such a stubborn idiot heading for death. Ye Lin ignored her and continued walking. But then, another group of students blocked his way and told him that he really thought he had risen up just because he had switched to being a curse master. These guys were Ye Lin's classmates, and they were mad because they could not accept Zuganini's earlier offer to team up with him. Ye Lin was annoyed. Women really were troublesome. Because of just 2 lines from Zuganini, these idiots were now looking for trouble. He replied that he was on his way back home. The guys laughed at Ye Lin's expense. One of them mocked him, asking if the poor student was referring to his 10-square-meter shack as a home. Another student, the leader of the group, said arrogantly that now that Ye Lin was SSS ranked, he should call him daddy, and he'd get Ye Lin a security job at G Corporation. The others laughed and added that being a G Corp security guard was a privilege. He also ordered Ye Lin to kneel before their young master. Once Ye Lin accepted the offer and got paid, he could buy some nice incense for his dead orphanage family. The 3 continued to tease Ye Lin, even going so far as to say that he was just an orphan who didn't deserve to have a family. Ye Lin was already mad, and as he stared at them with a serious look, his eyes flamed with a blue and red aura as he activated a curse magic power. He told the idiots that they were the ones who forced his hand. The 3 were confused at Ye Lin's willingness to use curse magic, knowing full well the implications. They questioned what he was trying to do. Was he really going to use curse magic and shorten his lifespan? Why wouldn't I? Ye Lin also questioned with a puzzled look. Didn't you fools speak of my dead family? Conjuring a slight lightning strike, Ye Lin's attack was only meant to scare them. The guys, now scared shitless of Ye Lin, pleaded with him, saying there was no need for their classmate to use a forbidden curse on them. But Ye Lin simply stretched out his hand and challenged the idiots to come at him if they dared. However, they decided to run away in fear. Ye Lin then deactivated his curse ability and uttered, "What a bunch of trash." They actually ran off with just 1 move. As he continued to walk, he felt like his duodenum was scorched. He wasn't aware that Zuganini had witnessed the commotion. She was annoyed that he was getting provoked by a few insults and was ready to throw his life away. She was sure that even if someone acted like Ye Lin, who wasn't a curse user, they would definitely not go far. For her, Ye Lin wasn't worthy of standing beside her. The night came, and Ye Lin was already at his home. Ye Lin placed his bag down on the couch and sat while checking his system interface. Apparently, sacrificing a piece of duodenum would summon a regular lightning bolt. But sacrificing a bladder would summon in thunder from burial waters. Next, sacrificing a heart could summon destruction, purple lightning. If that was the case, Ye Lin concluded he would die summoning the most powerful chaos god thunder. He lay down on his couch when he felt his head spinning, but he was aware that it was the side effects of his body recovery. At the same time, Ji Lingyu went to his father and asked to avenge him. He wanted his dad to send someone to take Ye Lin out. However, his father reminded him that killing an SSS-ranked curse user was very risky, and there was no benefit in it for them. He was aware that someone who goes all out using forbidden spells, just because of a few insults, was clearly emotionally unstable. He snuffed out his cigarette on the ashtray and told his son not to forget that Ye Lin was from a poor background. He wanted his son to learn how to use his greatest advantage to target the enemy's weakest spot. Early the next day, Ye Lin went to the Qingqing Academy. He kept yawning due to a lack of a well-deserved sleep. The students around started murmuring about what he'd done the day before, when suddenly, someone tapped Ye Lin on the shoulder with a bottle. It was none other than Ye Lin. Inside the bottle was milk he brought as a peace offering. He also brought breakfast for Ye Lin. Ye Lin was clueless as to why, but accepts the milk regardless. At first, he thought Ye Lin was trying to poison him just because he couldn't beat him. But the poor guy replied that he wouldn't dare. It was just his way of thanking him. "Thank me?" Ye Lin questioned with a skeptical look. "Yeah," Ye Lin replied with a forced smile. Ye Lin drank the milk and told Ye Lin to just say what he wants. Unexpectedly, Ye Lin stated that he was grateful that Ye Lin struck him like a bolt of lightning. Apparently, that lightning strike was Ye Lin's wake-up call. He also added that Ye Lin's appearance made him realize that he's been wasting his life in a daze. Ye Lin called Ye Lin on his bullshit and again told the idiot to say what he really wants. Ye Lin suddenly kneeled and stated that he wants to call Ye Lin Big Brother. Ye Lin was shocked and questioned him if he happened to hit him in the head. But Ye Lin replied that he was serious and that the beating he received the day before made him reflect on himself. He deeply reflected and wants to become a better person, but he needs a great role model. Ye Lin agreed to be his role model, but there need to be some tuition payment. Surprising enough, Ye Lin didn't refuse and immediately asked for Ye Lin's account number. Ye Lin headed to the field as he gave his account number. He told Ye Lin to transfer 2 million as a first-term tuition payment. When Ye Lin asked if it was too expensive, Ye Lin reassured him that it was not. He will inform his dad to send it right away. At this time, a novice secret realm opened on the field as a test for the students. The principal hopes all the candidates from each academy could perform well. Of course, everyone was wishing for their victory. Ye Lin and Juganini were in the front, so the old men beside the principal believed both students were from Ching High School who got the SSS class profession for this year. For them, both looked extraordinary. The principal was annoyed, stating that he had already told Ye Lin and Juganini to keep a low profile. But these kids really don't know how to behave. 2 of them ended up getting SSS class jobs at once, and it seems to be just infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Isn't it? He then laughed and turned to face the rest, questioning why they weren't saying anything. Were they all born mute or something? The 3 old guys walked away, saying they still had some things to do. As you might have guessed, it turns out they were annoyed by the principal for being full of himself and rubbing their faces in. Anyway, the moment entering the novice secret realm was issued. The examinees began to swamp the entrance like a tidal wave. Before Ye Lin could enter, Juganini asked him once again to team up with her. Still, Ye Lin refused, which made her think he was very arrogant. Since he was so eager to die, she won't stop him. Ye Lin ignored her and immediately entered the secret realm. As he landed, he noticed he was alone. No one was around, so he thought it was a random teleportation. A level 1 leopard cat then appeared. It roared, but Ye Lin wasn't scared at all, but rather excited. He believed it was a perfect enemy to test his forbidden spell. He then attacked it and instantly killed it without any struggle. Ye Lin was awarded 10 experience points, but he was disappointed, deeming it too little for him. He walked away while stating that it doesn't even justify the damage to his kidneys and that he has to kill 100 of these leopard cat just to reach level 2, which is why he decided to figure something out. A while later, Ye Lin let 100 kinds of monsters chase him. As he ran, he couldn't stop smiling, believing this wave of monsters should be enough to give him a good amount of experience points. Some of these monsters have a human half-body. He stops running and turned to look at them, stating his desire to test his newly learned forbidden curse. He then cast his destructive surge. The curse was so terrifying that it increased Ye Lin's strength, agility, and spirit twofold. With burning reincarnation activated, he believes that even a level 10 monster probably couldn't withstand his full-powered world-ending thunderstrike. He then attacked some of the monsters, slashing them without any hesitation. He noticed he aged in just 5 minutes of using the skill, so he decided to stop using the burning reincarnation forbidden curse after about 1 minute at most, if he didn't want to reveal his undying body. He continued by using his vitality preservation. He sacrificed his left arm and tapped the ground as he activated his world-ending Fury Forbidden Curse. He killed a level 3 Gray Wolf and was rewarded with 30 experience points. Then a level 5 Two-Headed Snake and received 50 experience points. A level 6 Armored Scorpion and gained 60 experience points each for the 6th Centaur. And finally, a level 2 Killed Bee and gained 20 experience points. With that, he leveled up to level 3. He was satisfied and amazed with this development. He also learned a new Forbidden Curse, which was a Hellfire Scorches the Sky. An hour later, Zuganini encountered the area where Ye Lin had killed all those monsters. She was shocked when she saw so many monsters incinerated to ash. She was in disbelief, wondering what had just happened. Then, she noticed a hellfire. Confused, she checked it out regardless, since she didn't know anyone who had the fire element in Qing besides her. But now, there was such an intense fire element fluctuation. Also, the fire element wave might be even stronger than hers. She then saw something that gave her a hint that this commotion was surely caused by a human. Looks like Qing is full of hidden dragons. Izuganini will definitely find out who you are. She vowed with determination. But at this moment nearby, Ye Lin was spending some time roasting some meat to eat. He was enjoying a three-eyed demon pig meat. He realized he was eating more than his usual since his body used up too much energy earlier. After eating, he then decided to head to a farther area and grind some more. When he was about to leave, Zuganini suddenly appeared and called him. "Ye Lin, what are you doing here?" she asked. Ye Lin was annoyed that he'd ran into her. It was a hassle for him, as he didn't want anyone to find out his secret. He smiled at her and replied that he was just casually roasting something to eat. Zuganini then told him once more that a Forbidden Curse Masterclass was totally not suited for solo grinding. Ye Lin was annoyed when Zuganini walked away, telling him it is too late for regrets now, and following her won't help him anymore. She really assumed Ye Lin was tagging along with her, so she told him she didn't have time to team up with him anymore. Ye Lin was thinking Zuganini might be missing a few brain cells. Zuganini, on the other hand, looked back at him and asked him if he had seen anyone else pass the area, and she stated that that person is extremely powerful, very skilled with fire element manipulation, and likely mastered Hellfire. Hellfire? Yeah, I saw him. He was a very handsome guy. He went that way. Ye Lin replied calmly. He knew he could not let Zuganini cling to him, so he decided not to use the Hellfire spell anymore going forward. As Zuganini continued walking, she blamed Ye Lin for wasting her time. Otherwise, she would have found the Hellfire user by now. She noticed a shadow looming above her, but when she raised her head, she was shocked to see a level 8 Dragonblood behemoth. She dodged when it tried to attack her. Zuganini was puzzled as to why a level 8 monster would appear in the area she was. She looked behind her, deducing that Ye Lin might have run away far by now. She then attacked the monster with her Fireball Storm. However, it didn't deal much damage, not enough to kill the monster. The monster looked at her with anger. It charged toward her at a fast speed and bumped her, trashing her away. Oh man, for a second I really thought I was about to see the heavens. But yeah, turns out I've got zero luck. But anyway, back to the story. She fights back with her flame, but the monster roared, blowing the flame back at her. Zuganini was dumbfounded as all the flames hit her. The monster stood there as the smoke settles. When it eventually did, Zuganini was on the ground with her clothes ripped, trembling in pain. She admitted that she was too arrogant to believe that she can definitely defeat a level 8 Dragonblood behemoth in this secret realm. She was afraid she would die at the hands of a level 8 monster, knowing it would be a humiliating death. Lucky for her, someone intervened and attacked the monster using a Forbidden Curse Hellfire. The poor monster was literally burned to ash. As expected, Zuganini was shocked, knowing this Hellfire user was the one she was searching for. Turning to face her savior, Zuganini thanked this mysterious person and wanted to know his name. The questionable masked individual was none other than Ye Lin. Ye Lin was standing on a tree branch with a mask. He told Zuganini to call him Ling Yi, which meant early dawn and night. Ling for early dawn, Yi for night. Placing a finger on her lips, Zuganini acted all pitiful and curious. asking the mysterious Ling which school he was from. Although she was grateful to her savior, she also wanted to know who exactly was underneath that mask. So she concealed her intentions by stating she simply wanted to thank Ye Lin properly when they exit the dungeon. Ye Lin just stared at her like she was an idiot. He didn't need her fucking thanks. He told Zuganini that there was no need to thank him. It was just a small effort after all. Anyway, the moment Ye Lin was about to bounce, Zuganini pleaded for him to wait. She tried to get on her feet, but Ye Lin told her not to follow him. There were even stronger monsters ahead, and it was definitely not a place for someone of her strength to step into. Also, she might want to put her clothes back on properly before anything else. This sudden realization drew Zuganini's attention to the current state of her outfit. She blushed hard, immediately laying on the ground in a desperate attempt to cover herself, wishing the earth could just swallow her whole. When she finally raised her head, she realized the mysterious Ling was gone. Zuganini shouted his name with resolve, vowing to catch up to him one day. She would stand proudly by his side. Ye Lin, on the other hand, had already leapt far ahead, moving seamlessly from one tree branch to the next. After putting enough distance between them, he figured what just happened should be enough to stop Zuganini from clinging to him anymore. He'd already wasted too much time, and he needed to hurry and level up. Opening his status window, Ye Lin noticed something new, a forbidden curse named Undying. It required sacrificing 2.5 years of lifespan to negate one fatal injury. Seriously, what the hell? The Forbidden Spellcaster class really was the definition of short-lived, constantly screwing with a person's life expectancy. But this skill, this was practically a bonus. With this forbidden curse, Ye Lin could survive even a fatal blow. It meant that even if someone stabbed him in the heart from behind, he wouldn't go down. What's more, this also meant he could now use other forbidden curses that required sacrificing his heart or even his freaking head once. This was just too good to be true. Now, he could grind recklessly without restraint. No one could stop his leveling pace. 3 days passed. It was the final day of the test. The old guys had gathered at the entrance of the novice secret realm. The principal of Qingchong Academy greeted his old colleagues with his usual condescending smile. The short-haired man among them, Principal Su, scoffed and asked what he was showing off for. So what if he had 2 SSS-rank job changers? Exactly, another principal chimed in. Level can matter more than class rank. The red-haired one nodded, reminding everyone that the highest record for Qingchong's secret realm test was level 11, and it hadn't been broken in years. Then, turning to Principal Su, he remarked that, if memory served, the student who set that record was from Su's Yutsai Academy. Principal Su nodded. "You're right," he said, then added with a smirk, "I wonder if someone will break the record this year." The principal of Qingchong Academy responded, "We'll see. I believe my student can surprise everyone." Just then, an unexpected figure stepped onto the scene and greeted the principals politely. It was Zhuge Qinxing, Zuganini's father. Principal Su was surprised. "It's been a long time. An honor," added the Qingchong principal. After all, Zhuge Qinxing was their school's astrologer. With pleasantries exchanged, Zhuge Qinxing got straight to the point. He asked about his daughter and whether she had caused any trouble for the principal. Seeing how much Qinxing doted on his daughter, the principal replied calmly, "No, not at all. Zhuganini is the pride of our Chongqing Academy." But right then, someone emerged from the dungeon. The test timer wasn't over yet, so this early appearance could only mean one thing: injury. To their surprise, the one who stepped out was none other than Zuganini herself. She greeted the principals politely, then did a double take when she saw her father. Zhuge Qinxing immediately asked why she came out early, while the principal asked what level she had reached. Calmly, Zuganini stated, "Level 12. Every principal present was stunned. The record had been broken, just like that. The principal of Qingchong Academy beamed with pride. His student was indeed worthy of being a fire mage. Zhuge Qinxing walked up to his daughter, sighing that she was too willful. If she had just stayed in the dungeon a bit longer, grinded some more, she could have hit level 13. Zuganini replied honestly that the dungeon had gotten boring. It took ages to find level 10 monsters, and the experience rewards were pathetically small. But the real reason she came out early? She wanted to find Ling Yi. Being the first out meant she could see everyone else come out afterward. Meanwhile, back inside the secret realm, Ye Lin suddenly sneezed like he had a cold. Strange, this area wasn't cold at all. Was someone cursing him? And with all level 10 monsters gone, had he grinded too hard? Looks like he needed to widen his hunting grounds. Raising his hand, Ye Lin decided to try out another forbidden curse he'd learned: instantaneous range. The spell required sacrificing an organ based on importance, but in return, it could increase agility, with a maximum boost of 10 times for an hour. Wasting no time, Ye Lin activated the 10x agility boost, sacrificing his kidney. The feeling was insane. Even a level 50 assassin couldn't match this speed. He dashed like lightning, creating a sonic boom as he tore through the landscape. Before a three-headed storm mantis could even react to his presence, it was already too late. Sacrificing his bladder this time, Ye Lin unleashed a bolt of lightning, ashen fierce thunder that instantly incinerated the monster into ash. Back at the entrance, more and more students were pouring out of the dungeon. Some were ecstatic. Others were just glad to be alive. Through it all, Zuganini waited patiently, eyes fixed on the exit. She still hadn't seen Ling Yi. Only 5 minutes remained, and students were being called back to their designated school zones. With the test nearly over, it looked like the highest record this year would officially belong to Zuganini. Xinjiang Academy had scored big. Not only did they get 2 SSS-rank students, but now they had the record-breaking leveler of the year too. But speaking of Qingqing Academy's SSS-rank students, the other had yet to exit the secret realm, right? The countdown time had 3 minutes left, and the moment Zuganini heard this, she wondered if she had perhaps missed her target exiting the dungeon. But after briefly thinking it over, she found it to be impossible. She had been staring at the dungeon's entrance the moment she got out. In that moment, the entrance of the secret realm began to shimmer with a golden glow, indicating that someone was coming out. Seeing this, Zuganini was certain it must be Ling Yi, but was surprised when it turned out to be her classmate Ye. Shocked, she asked why. Why was it Ye? Ye was puzzled with this stupid question. The time was up, so of course he had to exit the dungeon. Was there a problem? Zuganini got over her initial shock and began to walk away. She told Ye that he was a coward and should stay away from him. Hearing this, Ye gritted his teeth in annoyance. Seriously, what's wrong with this bitch? Was she a psycho? His principal approached him at this moment and asked what level he was at. He didn't have much expectation and was just curious as to what level his second SSS rank student was at. Ye calmly replied that he was at level 16. The crowd present was stunned. You see, leveling up from 1 to 16 requires a total of 120,000 experience points. And the highest level monster in the novice secret realm was level 10. Killing level 10 monsters gives 100 XP, meaning Ye killed 1,200 level 10 monsters. How is that even possible? The principal suddenly began praising Ye like crazy, stating that he was the pride of Qingqiang Academy. Surprised with the young man's talent, Zhuge Qianxing also congratulated Ye. This annoyed his daughter. She coldly remarked, "With Ye's profession, what's so special about being level 16? Ye was a forbidden curse master. If he recklessly uses forbidden curses, isn't it normal for him to level up quickly?" When the other principals heard Ye's profession, they found Zhuge Nini's explanation reasonable. The rest of the crowd also believed Ye must be crazy when they heard of his profession, frantically casting forbidden curses in the beginner's secret realm to level up. Other curse masters don't live past 25, and the way Ye was leveling up meant he probably won't make it to 20. Seriously, trading one's life for empty fame. Truly a foolish behavior. Some also believed Ye was frantically leveling up just so they'll envy him. But he will pay with his life eventually, so they should let him have his glory for a few days. The long-haired principal approached Ye and questioned earnestly, "Student Ye, why bother? Tell me honestly, did Principal Gao put you up to this? It seems you've been deceived. Principal Gao is trading your life for the school's honor." Irritated, Principal Gao asked what nonsense his old mate was spouting. He was a person of integrity. How could he possibly joke with the lives of his students? Ye Lin finally spoke after putting on a pitiful act. He stated that nobody forced him. It was all voluntary. I grew up in a poor family and was always looked down upon. Now that I have the chance to go all out, I won't be a coward. Even if I wither in my most brilliant moment, I don't care. I want everyone to know that I can do it. The moment Ye Lin finished his emotional speech, Zhuge Qinxin clapped and stated calmly, "Well said. This young guy truly has grand ambitions. In any case, he's the highest level student in this beginner's secret realm test. That's undeniable, isn't it? He's number one." Zhuge Qinxin introduced himself to Ye Lin as the father of Zhuge Nini. If Ye Lin needs anything in the future, he can contact him. Zhuge Nini was pissed off when she heard this, questioning her father why he believes Ye Lin was number one. When Ling Yi comes out, his level will definitely not be lower than Ye Lin's. "Oh, is that so?" His father retorted, although his tone was smooth. "Who is this talented Ling Yi?" Hearing this question, the principals began asking themselves if any of them had a student by that name. However, none of them seemed to have heard of this student. But Zhuge Nini still spoke confidently that Ling Yi was a true heaven's pride, and when he comes out of the dungeon, everything will be proven. Meanwhile, inwardly, Ye Lin was again insulting Zhuge Nini as a stupid bitch. She just couldn't keep her freaking mouth shut. Having enough of this farce, Ye Lin said his goodbye to Principal Gao and Zhuge Qinxin before taking his leave. He wanted to go home and rest well. Shortly after that, the time was up and the Novice Secret Realm test was over. But Zhuge Nini was puzzled with this outcome. Where was Ling Yi? Could it be that while I was talking to Ye Lin, Ling Yi quietly slipped away? Cursing, Zhuge Nini started blaming Ye Lin. She believed Ling Yi's escape was Ye Lin's fault. Where her father placed a hand on her shoulder, she asked if he believes him. Ling Yi was truly a genius, and he even saved her life. Zhuge Qinxin figured out that her daughter's early exit from the dungeon wasn't random at all. It was simply to find this mysterious Ling Yi. But something about this fell off. He asked Zhuge Nini if it was possible that Ye Lin was the mysterious Ling Yi she had been looking for. Hearing this, Zhuge Nini vehemently denied the possibility. What was her father thinking? How could that coward ever be compared to Ling Yi? Ye Lin saw the dragon blood behemoth she faced in the dungeon and ran away in terror like a total coward. And Ling Yi's mastery of the fire element was extremely high. How could Ye Lin, of all people, know anything about that? Meanwhile, back inside his apartment, Ye Lin let out another heavy sneeze which jolted him awake. He wondered who was talking behind his back. Seriously, it must be that stupid woman Zhuge Nini. Just then, a knock on his door drew his attention. Ye Lin asked who the person was. And the moment he opened the door, he questioned the fat business guy in front of him. The fat guy introduced himself as Wang. Mr. Wang, the manager of Ching Chung Brain King Oral Liquid Limited Company. He had been searching for Ye Lin for a while, and now he'd finally found him. The moment Ye Lin led Mr. Wang inside his apartment, he questioned what he was there for. Mr. Wang replied that he's got good news for Ye Lin. He heard Ye Lin successfully changed profession and even broke the highest level record in Qing Qing's beginner's secret realm. So his company was sincerely inviting him to endorse their product. Of course, the remuneration would definitely be substantial. Ye Lin asked how much exactly was substantial. Mr. Wang raised 3 fingers, which implied 3 million. He handed Ye Lin a tiny bottle, telling him to try it. It was the company's new product, a Brain King oral liquid. Not only does it nourish the brain and enhance intelligence, but it also promotes cell regeneration. Consuming 1 bottle, and a person would feel several years younger. Also, this century-old enterprise had a 10 times refund guarantee if the drug was proven ineffective. Ye Lin should try it. Ye Lin opened the cap of the bottle, knowing full well 3 million was worth several of his kidneys. It looks like fame really does pay. He drank the content in the bottle, which tasted a little sweet. Then he suddenly felt dizzy. Ye Lin passed out immediately after. Lying on his couch, Mr. Wang called someone on the phone and told the person that Ye Lin drank the content in the bottle. He prepared backup plans, but they weren't even needed. It seems Ye Lin was a simple fool. Mr. Wang was ordered to bring Ye Lin over. A while later, Deep into the night, an unspecified location. Inside an abandoned warehouse, Mr. Wong had successfully brought Ye Lin to his boss. Although he didn't understand why his boss was going through such lengths for a mere student, he knew he didn't have the right to ask questions. His boss, who happened to be the shop owner in the black market Ye Lin used to sell his organs to, told Mr. Wong to leave. Without his orders, no one should be allowed in. If anyone violated this order, they would be killed. Mr. Wong replied he understands and left the warehouse. The greedy shop owner crouched beside Ye Lin, recalling how Ye Lin sold him his liver, coronary arteries, gallbladder, corneas, kidneys, spleen, large intestine, small intestine. And surprisingly enough, they'd all grown back. The organs Ye Lin previously sold to him had all regenerated. Incredible. This was simply incredible. With Ye Lin, he could master the secret of organ regeneration. As he got drunk on his delusional fantasies, someone added that the old bastard will have supreme power and wealth. Even the most powerful people will kneel before him. Hearing this, the old bastard Ji Yujin agreed. Exactly. But the moment he said this, he realized what just happened. Turning around, he was stunned to find Ye Lin casually sitting on a chair with his arms and legs crossed. Ji Yujin wondered how it was possible. How was Ye Lin awake this early? His sleeping drug could keep even an elephant unconscious for 6 hours. But Ye Lin wasn't concerned about the stupid sleeping potion. He was more curious about how Ji Yujin managed to track him down. Ji Yujin got over his initial shock, pointed his blade at Ye Lin, and stated that since his cash cow was awake, he won't be polite anymore. He should surrender obediently, and he will guarantee Ye Lin won't lose any limb. Ji Yujin's profession was currently a level 20 Phantom Blade. Ye Lin realized Ji Yujin also had a job change with a higher level than his own. Left with no choice, he decided to get serious. He knew using fire element would easily burn this entire place down, so it was better not to cause too much commotion. Ye Lin decided to use his eternal freezing gaze. It was a forbidden curse that sacrifices his eyeballs to freeze everything within sight before becoming blind. Petrified, Ji Yujin was shocked to find the entire lower half of his body frozen. Ye Lin kept the spell active as the ice around Ji Yujin started extending. Ji Yujin wondered what was going on. What kind of spell was it? He plunged his blade into the ice around him, but was unable to break it. His eyes widened when the ice finally encased his entire body, leaving only his head exposed. Ji Yujin kept muttering that it was impossible. Ye Lin was only level 16, while he was level 20. Even if Ye Lin was a forbidden curse master, he couldn't possibly defeat him in one strike. What kind of monster was he? Now that Ji Yujin was trapped in place, Ye Lin could have a proper chat with him. He asked Ji Yujin who else knew about his organ regeneration ability. Ji Yujin replied that besides him, no one knew. After all, with such an amazing discovery, why would he tell someone else? Hearing this, Ye Lin chose to believe the old bastard and decided to make his death quick and painless. He raised his fist and smashed the poor old bastard into broken ice lollies. Also, after consuming all the sleeping drug, he decided to sacrifice his stomach first. Sacrificing his stomach, Ye Lin rained lightning on the guards outside. He left one alive for questioning. The poor fatty didn't want to die, so the moment Ye Lin asked who was his boss behind the scenes, he initially tried to reason with Ye Lin that he couldn't say, otherwise he would be killed. But after seeing Ye Lin enveloped with lightning sparks, he spoke up immediately. Their boss was king of Qing Underground Market, Kensen. The poor fatty was struck with a bolt of lightning the moment he was done talking. Grabbing his chin, Ye Lin walked away, trying to recall where he'd heard Kensen. The name seemed familiar. It didn't take much effort to remember that Kensen was one of Qing City's top 10 outstanding philanthropists. This just got complicated. Meanwhile, elsewhere at Qing's underground black market, a middle-aged man with a thick cigar lounged in a leather sofa as one of his men informed him about some urgent news. This fucker was Ken's son, and with his brows furrowed, he was shocked upon receiving news that all contact with his agent, Jihu, had been lost. The bald fellow informed him that they hadn't been able to contact Jihu for half an hour, so they went to his farmhouse, only to find the entire area burned to the ground. Judging by the wreckage from the fire, it was done by a job holder. Kin-san grew furious and stomped on the table in front of him, wrecking it. He ordered his men to find the culprit immediately, with no delay. The next day, Ye Lin arrived at the grand residence of the Ji family, where he was warmly welcomed by Ji Lingyu, who had become a loyal follower after their previous encounter. As soon as he heard that Ye Lin was visiting, he immediately sent someone to pick him up. Ji Lingyu shyly brought up the 2 million yuan that Ye Lin had asked for earlier, adding that he'd already talked to his father. However, Ye Lin interrupted him, questioning if Ji Lingyu was trying to disrespect him by talking about money at that moment. Since he'd agreed to accept Ji Lingyu as an underling, money was just a small matter. Hearing this, Ji Lingyu placed an arm around Ye Lin's shoulders and welcomed him wholeheartedly. From now on, Ye Lin should consider his home as his as well. Inwardly, Ji Lingyu realized that his father was right. He believed Ye Lin was a simple-minded guy who cared a lot about his dignity. So, as long as he could exploit that, he should be able to achieve his goal. Ye Lin, on the other hand, had planned this encounter with the purpose of using the Ji family as a shield against Kin-san and his men. He was sure Kin-san wouldn't dare attack him inside the Ji family estate. Ye Lin entered the house and was surprised to find a large number of maids lined up, greeting him politely and respectfully, which left him a bit speechless. He looked at the maids and thought to himself how different life was when one had wealth. Ji Lingyu offered to assign one of the maids to be Ye Lin's personal servant, and Ye Lin accepted the offer. But soon after, Ye Lin felt embarrassed and refused, saying he was only joking. However, Ji Lingyu insisted, adding that his boss should also change his clothes for something important. Ye Lin eagerly asked what the important matter was, but Ji Lingyu told him to wait until they arrived at the destination. Eventually, they arrived at the annual Qing auction, and Ji Lingyu informed him that this was the grand venue he had never visited before. Upon arriving at the annual auction in Qing City, Ji Lingyu told Ye Lin that he would later introduce him to some of the city's most important figures. But Ye Lin preferred to start with food and told Ji Lingyu to go about his own business and not mind him. Internally, Ji Lingyu sarcastically commented on Ye Lin's simplicity and naivety, thinking he still lacked experience due to his poor upbringing. As Ye Lin ate heartily, especially since he had previously sacrificed his stomach and now needed to compensate by eating more, he heard a voice beside him asking why he was here. When he turned around, he saw Zuganini and her friend Lu Yanwei standing there. Zuganini rolled her eyes and crossed her arms as Lu Yanwei leaned closer, still puzzled. "Who is he again?" she asked, clearly unimpressed. Ye Lin clenched his jaw slightly, barely hiding the irritation bubbling beneath his calm facade. Why the hell did this dumb woman keep bumping into him like some cosmic punishment? With a cold tone, Zuganini replied, "He's just that coward who ran away from the monster in the novice secret realm. Don't know why I keep seeing him. Total bad luck." Her words were sharp and dismissive, as if even acknowledging him too much would ruin her day. Ye Lin simply gave a slight smirk. Oh, if only she knew. If only she realized he was actually Ling Yi, the same person she obsessed over like a fangirl chasing an idol. How hilarious would that revelation be? Just then, Ji Lingyu returned with a group of young elites in tow. He proudly stepped up beside Ye Lin and declared, "Everyone, this is my boss. Show some respect." His friends exchanged confused glances. One of them raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "Shouldn't you be the one calling the shots, Ji Lingyu?" Ji Lingyu shook his head seriously. "You guys don't understand. He's not just anyone. This man hit level 16 while still in the novice secret realm." Gasps and stunned expressions spread through the group. Some nearly dropped their wine glasses. Compared to their weak levels, level 16 sounded like a distant fantasy. Ye Lin remained composed and said lightly, "Don't be too surprised. If we could get out of the city, I could help all of you level up before the big exam." Instantly, the mood turned electric. The thought of fast leveling made everyone excited. But Ji Lingyu's face darkened slightly. It's forbidden to leave the city before the major exam. They don't want people getting help from higher-level job holders. Ye Lin rubbed his chin and dropped a subtle suggestion. "But the journey to the exam site, that could be." Useful, no? His tone was casual, but the message was clear. Ye Lin's eyes lit up. I see what you mean. Then he added with confidence, don't worry about equipment. If you need anything, I'll get it for you right here at this auction. Ye Lin blinked. You sure? Some stuff here costs a fortune. Doesn't matter, Ye Lin said, waving it off. My dad said as long as we can boost our results in the exam, we've got full support. As they spoke, the auction hall's lights dimmed and a spotlight fell onto the stage. A stunning woman stepped up, smiling gracefully. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice smooth and melodic. I'm Ching, your host for this evening. I hope everyone leaves here with what they desire most. Applause followed her words, a mixture of anticipation and tension filling the air. Now, our first item. She gestured to a pedestal as a velvet cloth was pulled away. An epic-grade fire-type mage scroll. Bidding starts at 500,000 yuan. The crowd came alive. Hands shot up. Numbers escalated. 800,000, 1.2 million, 2 million, and then 3 million yuan. A commanding voice echoed from the VIP section. Everyone turned to look. Sitting there, calmly fanning himself, was Zhuge Ching, Zuganini's father. Ye Lin chuckled quietly to himself. How adorable. Daddy's out here emptying his wallet so his precious little girl can throw fireballs. Meanwhile, he, a forbidden curse master, could summon lightning, plagues, or instant death. No scrolls needed. He leaned back in his chair, quietly enjoying the chaos while sipping tea. Life was starting to get a bit more entertaining. Ye Lin leaned closer to Ye Lin and whispered, your profession's an A-rank Shadowblade, right? If something comes up that suits your class, don't hesitate. Bid right away. The right skill could save your life. Just as he finished speaking, Ching's voice rang through the hall again, clear and confident. Next up, a rare quality treasure, the Royal Dragon Wish Ring. It increases spirit by 30% and grants the passive skill, Dragon's Aura. Starting bid, 2 million. Minimum increment, 100,000. Ladies and gentlemen, place your bids. The crowd instantly ignited. 2.5 million, 3 million, 3.1 million. Numbers flew as the bidding escalated fast. Ye Lin's eyes gleamed. A 30% spirit boost? That was insane. For any awakened, it was a complete game changer. He nudged Ling Yu and gave him a look. This was a must-have. Ye Lin immediately turned to his father and whispered, Dad, I want that ring. President Ji barely blinked. Without hesitation, he raised a finger and calmly called out, 8 million. To him, 8 million was a small price for his son's success in the national exam. Once in a top university, their family name would be even more solid. And as for Ye Lin, he was a forbidden caster. Those guys didn't live long anyway. In a few years, whatever equipment they gave him would circle back to the G family. The auctioneer's voice rang out again. 8 million going once. Anyone for 8.1? 8.2? The hall quieted. Then suddenly, 10 million. A deep voice echoed from the back. The hall froze. Kinson stepped into view, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a sharp black coat. He casually waved at President G. Long time, President G. How have you been? Gasps rippled across the auction house. Everyone recognized the man. The Underground King. This wasn't his usual crowd. Why was he here? Ye Lin instinctively took a step back, vanishing into the nearby shadows. He couldn't be seen. Not by Kinson. Even a passing glance could expose everything. President G narrowed his eyes. What's G Group done to offend you now, Mr. Kinson? Kinson's expression darkened. He slowly raised a finger and pointed. You had my men killed. Now you want me to be polite about it? I don't know what you're talking about. President G replied smoothly. But if it's a fight you're after, G Group isn't exactly easy to push around. He raised his hand. 12 million. Kinson's lips curled into a smile, slow and dangerous. He understood loud and clear. This was war now. As he turned to leave, he muttered to his assistant, That car, did you confirm it came from the warehouse? The assistant nodded. No doubt. We followed it straight to G family's villa. Kinson's smile vanished. Good. Then he can't blame me for what's about to happen. Back in the auction hall, the gavel slammed down. Sold. Royal Dragon Wish Ring. 12 million to President G. President G looked pleased as he handed the ring to Ye Lin. What do you think? Like it? Ye Lin nodded politely. I do. Thank you. Ji Ling Yu leaned toward his father. Who was that guy? His father's voice was low. That's Kinson. Used to rule the underworld. Been trying to go legit lately. But I think he's set his sights on our empire now. And he's not the kind to make empty threats. Ye Lin listened silently before speaking. G Group has influence, but it attracts attention too. Just a suggestion, stay cautious. President G gave a rare, serious nod. You're right. The Emperor Dragon Rue ring pulsed gently in Ye Lin's hand. It boosted his spirit attribute by 30%, a massive increase in his curse-casting power. And with the dragon's aura blessing him, his luck had gone up by 10 points. Whatever was coming next, he'd need every bit of that luck. Ye Lin slipped the Royal Dragon Wish ring onto his finger, and instantly, a surge of raw energy coursed through his body. His spirit stats shot up by a staggering 30%, and his luck increased by 10. Feeling the boost at his core, he grinned and turned to President G, reassuring him, don't worry. Even if I have to drag him by force, I'll make sure Ling Yu gets into a top academy. President G laughed heartily. No need to be so formal. We're family now. You and my son are practically brothers. Whatever equipment catches your eye, just tell me. It's yours. True to his word, President G spent the rest of the night throwing down massive bids. If Ye Lin so much as glanced at something, a bid was placed. Item after item piled up in their favor. By the time the auction finally ended, Ji Ling Yu was completely wiped out, but his father had basically cleaned out the entire auction. They picked up a mountain of treasures, Azure Thunder Ring, boosted spirit by 15%, and all lightning-based abilities gained a 20% power-up. Molten Moon Necklace, granted plus 200 spirit for mental-type casters. Twin Inyong Bracelet, added 40 spiritual attributes, and more importantly, unlocked Cycle of Duality and granted a passive healing factor that rapidly regenerated injuries over time. Ye Lin's eyes sparkled when he got the bracelet. Now, even if someone saw him regenerating from fatal wounds, he had the perfect excuse. It was all just part of the gear. But the true crown jewel of the night, the Falling Star Warblade. This beast of a weapon added plus 300 strength on its own. But under Starlight, the blade's power would stack every few seconds, up to an additional plus 100. Ye Lin nearly trembled. With this in his hand, he could finally unleash that forbidden skill he unlocked at level 10, the Lifespan Blade Arts. With every swing, he'd sacrifice a year of his life. And with each swing, the damage would double from the previous one, stacking all the way to 99 slashes. With this combo, he wouldn't just pass the national exam, he could crush it. Meanwhile, across town, Zuganini lounged in her private bath, soaking in rose-scented water, yet her brows were furrowed in irritation. She still couldn't understand what the G family saw in that coward Eiling. They pampered him like a royal prince and spent an absurd amount of money on him. What are they planning? She thought bitterly. There's no way this is just goodwill. Her thoughts were interrupted by the knock on the door. A maid stepped in. Miss Zuganini, Lu Yanwei has arrived. She brought someone who claims to have information on the person you've been searching for. Zuganini's eyes lit up. Ling Yi. She rose from the water at once, quickly throwing on a silk robe. Tell them to wait in the lounge. I'll be there immediately. She descended the stairs moments later and found Lu Yanwei sitting with a stern-faced man. Lu Yanwei stood and gestured. This is Officer Huang. He's with the Investigation Bureau. He says he has news about Ling. Officer Huang gave a polite nod. Miss Zuganini, I'm afraid the news isn't good. Her heart skipped. What do you mean? With a grim expression, he took out his phone and turned the screen to her. A photo showed the charred remains of a farmhouse. This property was located just outside Ching. It was burned to the ground. Several casualties. He swiped again, showing another photo, black, scorched marks resembling clawed fire. We found traces of hellfire at the scene. And based on the description you gave us earlier, we believe the suspect may be the same Ling Yi you mentioned. Zuganini froze. We'd like your assistance in the investigation, Officer Huang said carefully. You're the only person we know who's made direct contact with him. Zuganini stared at the images, the heat of the bath long forgotten. Her breath slowed. Lingyi, what the hell are you really hiding? Hearing Officer Huang's accusation, Zuganini instantly shot to her feet. That's impossible, she shouted, face red with anger. Lingyi isn't a killer. He saved my life. He risked himself to protect me. Why would a murderer do that? Officer Huang remained calm, while Lu Yanwei quickly stepped in to soothe her friend. Nini, just hear him out first. I understand your reaction, Officer Huang said patiently. But according to your statement, Lingyi used Hellfire to obliterate an 8th-tier beast in one hit. And when we investigated, we couldn't find any record of someone named Ling. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. However, there was one name that did come up. Someone who fits the timeline and the pattern. Zuganini narrowed her eyes, tension building in her chest. Ye Lin, Officer Huang said slowly. There's strong reason to believe he might be your mysterious Ling. Zuganini froze, then burst out laughing. That coward? You think he's Lingyi? No way. He runs from trouble like it's chasing him with a bill. And Hellfire? He wouldn't even know how to spell it. Officer Huang activated his lie detection skill, his pupils flickering blue. Are you absolutely certain? Of course, Zuganini replied without hesitation. I've seen Lingyi with my own eyes. I'd never mistake that for someone like Ye Lin. Officer Huang studied her quietly. His skill didn't detect a single hint of falsehood. She was telling the truth. Ye Lin may not be their suspect after all. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Zuganini. If anything comes up, please let us know immediately. Meanwhile, Ye Lin had far more exciting things on his mind. It was time to push his new gear to the limit. Ji Lingyu personally brought him to the Awakened Association Center, the heart of training in Qingqing City. A polite receptionist greeted them. Welcome. Will you be training today? Ji Lingyu nodded. Yes. My boss wants to test out his new equipment. The receptionist turned to Ye Lin. May I ask your level? Level 16, he answered confidently. Her brow lifted, but she nodded. We have standard training rooms for under level 20 awakeners. 100,000 yuan per hour. It includes force analysis and mana calibration. Ye Lin shook his head. No, I want a room for level 40 and under. The receptionist blinked in surprise, stunned silent for a moment. Then, with a faint smile of understanding, she nodded. Ji Lingyu remained outside, while she led Ye Lin into the high-tier training room. According to the lady, the training room was made of special materials and was built by an SS level builder. It can withstand the full force attack of job changers below level 40. This also applies to the dummies. It's extremely difficult for job changers below level 40 to leave marks on the dummies. The moment the door was locked, Ye Lin walked around and carefully checked the training room. And after confirming that there were no surveillance cameras, he visibly relaxed, then drew out his falling Star Warblade. Ye Lin made a dash forward, deciding to try Yongsho sword technique, which consumes a year of his life with every strike. Ye Lin leaped high in the air, grasped the falling Star Warblade tightly. The moment he swung the sword, his eyes became firm and deep. The first strike of the sword was followed by a deafening bang in the training room, as if something was completely torn apart. A bright light flashed on the blade of the falling Star Warblade, which was Ye Lin's burning life. After the first slash was made, the second slash that followed was even sharper and more powerful, and the air in the training room seemed like it's been slashed, forming an invisible sword energy. The third slash followed, then fourth and the fifth. Ye Lin's sword swinging speed was getting faster and faster, and each strike was more powerful than the last. When Ye Lin swung the sword for the 99th time, the entire training room seemed to be shaking, and strong energy fluctuations filled the air. At that moment, it was earth-shattering, and an unprecedented light burst out from the blade of the falling Star Warblade, illuminating the entire training room. As Ye Lin carried on, testing the rest of the equipment together with his forbidden spells, a slight tremor could be felt outside. Ye Lin explained to the lady that there was a major exams approaching, so Ye Lin likes to get a little bit crazy when he starts training. The two were interrupted the moment Ye Lin walked out of the training room with satisfaction. With his 2 forbidden spells of Burning, Reincarnation, and Longevity sword technique, coupled with the sword and the rest of the equipment, he had a rough estimate of his current strength. Ye Lin was curious as to why Ye Lin came out so soon. Ye Lin replied that he was exhausted and needed to head back and rest. Also, he wanted to know if he doesn't need to pay for breaking things in the training room. The lady initially thought Ye Lin was joking. After all, the training room was suitable for job changers below level 40. And if Ye Lin, a level 16 job changer, can damage the things inside, then it means the quality is not up to standard. How can she ask him to pay for it? Relieved, Ye Lin quickly led Ye Lin out of there as the lady went into the training room to check. When she found out that almost everything in the training room was completely wrecked, she covered her mouth in shock. The dummies were slashed and charred, and not a single dummy was left standing. Meanwhile, back at the G family residence, the 2 guards stationed at the entrance were suddenly attacked by an unknown enemy. The neck of one of the guards was pierced with a thin needle coated in poison. As the guard clutched his neck in pain, the other, seeing this, was alarmed and asked what was wrong. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of hands suddenly emerged from the shadows behind him. And just like that, his neck was snapped horribly from behind. Screams and bloodshed followed shortly after as the scene pans to President G, who was currently at his study when he heard all the commotion outside. He wondered what was going on. But just then, the old housekeeper, a bit bloodied and bruised, opened the office door and told his master to run. He was about to explain when suddenly a knife stabbed into his body along his lower back. He screamed in pain as his vitality quickly slipped away. The person responsible for this massacre finally came to view, and it was obviously none other than Kinson. "We meet again," he said, mocking President G. President G was furious as he took out his gun. But before he could even fire a shot, a long knife with a cold glow flashed by like lightning, and under President G's incredulous gaze, his hands had already flown high into the air. Kinson smiled with disdain on his face. He called President G a fool for using a gun against a job changer. Seriously, was he having a brain glitch or something? You see, guns were okay in dealing with those who had just successfully changed jobs. But once their strength reached level 30 or above, guns were no different from toys in front of them. Kinson raised his sword and was ready to kill President G when suddenly, one of his men rushed over and informed him that the 2 boys were not at the villa. Although Kinson was annoyed upon hearing this, he decided to let President G live a little longer. After all, killing him would be equivalent to cutting off Ye Lin's weak spot. But if he doesn't annihilate everything about the G family, they will eventually come back and seek revenge in the future. When Ye Lin and Ye Lin returned to the residence of the G family, they instantly felt that something was off. The guard stationed outside were missing. The entire villa was eerie quiet, and even the lights were off like there was a power outage. Ye Lin suddenly smelled a strong stench of blood and immediately rushed inside with a sense of dread as he switched on the lights. Ye Lin was stunned, staring at the horrifying scene. The bodies of the job changers and servants hired by the G family were everywhere, with broken limbs and arms scattered all over the ground. Many people had fear written all over their faces, as if they had encountered the most terrifying evil spirit before they died. Ye Lin took a few steps back, his face ashen as he tried to deny the reality. They must have entered the wrong place. This wasn't his home. Ye Lin warned him to be careful as he screamed in fear, frantically rushing towards his father's study like a madman. There was a piece of paper on the table not far from Ye Lin. Picking it up, he called Lin, he said gravely, "Come look at this." Ye Lin rushed over, seething with rage. The letter informs them that if Ye Lin wants to save his father, he should bring Ye Lin to the underground black market to find him. Also, with every 6 hours, he will cut a piece of flesh from his father. Ye Lin's anger was maxed out at this point. He tore the letter in half, vowing to kill Kinson with his own hands. Ye Lin was about to go find Kinson to fight him to the death when Ye Lin grabbed his shoulder. He stated that everything happened because of him, so he will go save President Ji while Ji Lingyu find a place to hide. Ji Lingyu wasn't having it, so Ye Lin skillfully knocked him out. He apologized and promised to bring his father safely. Ye Lin laid the unconscious Ji Lingyu on the sofa and left the villa. Ye Lin promised to show Kinsen how terrifying a cursed master who doesn't care about his freaking life is. Meanwhile, at the darkest heart of Qingcheng underground black market, Kinsen's men were spread all over the place, alert and armed. A black shadow crossed the night sky like a ghost and landed silently without alerting any guard. Ye Lin was wearing black clothes and black shoes, and his face was wrapped in black cloth. Ye Lin completely blended into the night. Although the guards were many, if he could sneak in quietly and catch Kinsen off guard, he might actually have a chance to kill him without any fuss. But just when Ye Lin was thinking about this, the next second, one of the guards suddenly turned in his direction, staring directly at him. Shocked, Ye Lin couldn't understand how. He had hidden perfectly, so why was he discovered so easily? The leader pointed his gun arrogantly at the hidden camera above Ye Lin's head and questioned which era he was from to be hiding in the shadows like that. Apparently, the entire place had surveillance cameras with infrared night vision. Sure enough, Ye Lin was still a little careless. But it doesn't matter as long as he wanna live all these people. The guy told him that their boss had been waiting for him. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this manhwa. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you either in a new manhwa recap or in the next episode of this one. Until then, take care and bye-bye.